Okay, we are live. We are live streaming onto YouTube, Facebook, and we're here in the Zoom room. So people come in from many different parts of the world, many different mediums, depending on where they're watching us from. What we'd love you to do, guys, while we give you a quick timer to round up the rest of your team, is just type in where you're watching us from today, and we'll be starting soon. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't speak English, that's not a problem. You can read closed captions in your local language here in the Zoom room live. And if you're on YouTube, on the playback, you can actually play them back in any language known to man, from what I'm told. So have a quick listen to this.
Por favor, vaya a la parte inferior de la pantalla en Zoom o YouTube y haga clic en subtítulos para leer en español.
Kérlek, menjünk képernyő aljára, a Zoomon vagy a YouTube-on, a Closed Caption részre, és ott el tudod olvasni magyarul a feliratot.
Silakan klik di layar bawah pada Zoom atau YouTube dan klik caption untuk membaca dalam bahasa Indonesia.
Pour les sous-titres en français, veuillez cliquer au bas de votre écran Zoom ou YouTube sur CC ou Closed Captions.
Zoom または YouTube の画面の下部に移動し、字幕をクリックして日本語で読んでください。
請到屏幕底部點閱隱藏字幕以閱讀中文.
Παρακαλώ πηγαίνετε στο κάτω μέρος της οθόνης, στο Zoom ή στο YouTube και κάντε κλικ στους υπότιτλους για να τα διαβάσετε στα ελληνικά.
請到屏幕底部點擊隱藏字幕以閱讀中文.
אנא עברו לתחתית המסך בזום וביוטיוב ולחצו על תרגום לכתוביות בעברית.
Proszę zejść na dół ekranu na Zoomie lub YouTubie i kliknąć napisy, żeby przeczytać po polsku.
Beautiful. So, as we get the event underway, ladies and gentlemen, let me set my English language, can't even say the word properly, set my language to English, tongue-tied. We got people online from Perth, Western Australia, Christchurch, New Zealand, Las Vegas, USA, Canada, Ontario, actually the other way around, isn't it? Ontario, Canada, Jakarta, Indonesia, Colorado, Florida, Canada, New Zealand, Surabaya, Indonesia, a couple of times, Virginia, Boca Rat. What an interesting name for a place, Boca Rat. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you've just joined us, my name is Michael Firth, one of the founding Field Advisory Board members who helped start the company way before we got Neumi on the Richter scale about 4 years ago. It's been a wild ride, and during that time, we've had lots of people who have hit some pretty amazing ranks in the company, have a lot of wisdom, and it's been really humbling to see some of the biggest leaders in the industry who have a lot of wisdom and a lot of heart and integrity matching a company joining Neumi, which has been pretty exciting. And with that in mind, you know, sometimes I say you hear from me way too much. So I hope you're not getting sick of my voice. And we like to mix it up and make sure that you can hear lots of different people from different perspectives. And one interesting person in our team, I needed to get a neck brace when Karen Justice joined, because I went from what I thought was a good pace to this rocketing along. And this lady hit Crown in 5.5 months. Now, I want to say this for people. I've done an analogy once before where I talk about Chinese bamboo, where apparently it stays under the ground for 5 years, and then all of a sudden you see nothing for 5 years, and then boom, 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 off it goes. So if you're brand new, don't compare yourself to Karen. Learn from her. Take wisdom from her words. And if you're looking for a mentor in the industry, always pick a mentor who's done what they're trying to tell you to do. Because if someone theorizes, I can pull out an Eric Worre book and say, oh, apparently this is what you do, and that has zero impact. Karen's speaking from the perspective of having become the fastest crown in the history of Neumi. Now, you don't fall on the top of a mountain, right? These things don't happen by accident, and it's important that you take some notes. So if you haven't got a pen and paper, please do. Today's Karen's going to be talking about some topics that are really close to her heart. And if you know Karen, well, she has a huge heart, and Karen's going to be talking about the importance of connection and building relationships when you're building a business. So I'm going to hand you off to Karen, and then I'll come back and wrap it up straight after this. So here we go.
Michael, Well, I think that it's all about connections, and that's really what I'd like to talk about today. It's really strengthening connections, building connections in your group, and how to make quick connections in a presentation. And one of the reasons I build quickly is I'm known for getting average people building, but the way that I do that is by getting them connected, really creating what I like to call a network of support. And I'm often asked, and we've talked about this before, you and I, if I lead with the product or I lead with the business, and I answer back, I lead with the heart. I lead with what's in front of me. As a professional networker, I think both types of presentations generally start out the same. And for myself, I tend to lead with the product, and from the product segue to the business opportunity. So that's generally what I do. And I spend an awful lot of time listening and having my attention on the person that I'm talking to and really building those connections. I know one of the reasons that I'm in Neumi is because of you. When we first met, we talked, and I didn't really want to, be there in the three-way. I was determined that I wasn't going to become involved, but you really spent a lot of time listening and were very empathetic, and it made the world of difference. And I've seen that always makes the world of difference in a presentation. So I wanted to kind of go into some of the component parts. Nobody wants to feel like a prospect or pushed. I feel like you'll be the happiest in this business if you just focus on being of service. We have wonderful products. There's wonderful product stories. So just be yourself. Natural presentations. Most people, as I said, aren't sales types, but everyone is a sharing type. And if you tell people your story, they very quickly make that connection. They make a mental leap that if that happened to you, it could happen for them. And the other very important skill we're going to be talking about is listening, and you do that very well. When you give people the opportunity to talk, the conversation is about them. And as soon as it becomes about them, the person is very interested. You kind of step into their shoes. And when people feel they're being listened to, they in turn will listen. I always, when I'm making a business presentation, stress how much this product helps people, because most people, as I said, aren't sales types. And when I did a survey into a large organization at one time, I found that the thing that actually got people to take action, to decide to start building their own business, was when they'd had some experience themselves and they realized that in fact they were going to be able to be helping others. So it's something I stress a lot in a presentation, how much the product helps people. And again, I'm just touching on some of the things we've talked about in the past, but you really don't have to be too snazzy in your presentations, that can actually be intimidating to a would-be builder. The important thing is to be more conversational. Even if you make a fumbling presentation, if you're doing it with your heart, a person tends to connect on a deeper level, what I call a heart connection. So just be yourself. Enthusiasm, it's what is the attractor factor. So just be genuine and do you. If you present like that, sales alert doesn't, flash across their radar screen. They connect on a deeper level, and you end up creating more long-term relationships. I just want to tell a quick story I told on myself at the event in Las Vegas when I was there. I was actually doing a training, and I was explaining to people, wasn't that long ago that I found myself in a presentation that I was very nervous about, because it was somebody in my group this person was so important to them, and they told me so many times how important this person was. And so I entered it nervous, and I forgot everything about, doing an excellent three-way that, we teach in our STAR trainings. I started talking pretty immediately about myself and, my successes. But I didn't just leave it at that. I went into a lot of the technical details, why this was such a great opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And very quickly, as I was doing it, I realized the other person was just tuning out. And so luckily, I just jumped in and I said, you know what? I said, this is probably the worst presentation you've ever heard, isn't it? I said, I haven't asked one thing about you. Let's go back and, can we just try this again? Luckily, the person was very receptive. Honestly, if you kind of make yourself vulnerable and you just tell the truth, people are very receptive. So we went back. I found out a lot about him and I presented to that. And that made all the difference. So even the best of us can find ourselves sometimes saying way too much. Less is always more. Less is more. You want to tell your story and a very condensed version of your story. And you want to keep it very simple. Your objective is to have them talking as quickly as possible. And I'm going to go into some of the exact ways to do that and how to create empathy. But first, I just want to spend a couple of minutes on crafting your story. Like, for instance, let's say I call somebody named Donna and I haven't talked to her for a while. I'll say something like, hi, Donna. I'm obviously calling because I'm excited about something, but we haven't talked in a year. So first, let's take a couple of minutes to catch up. And then once we've done that, I then will say again, I'm really excited about this product. I'm looking so much younger. And it's not just that I'm looking younger or feeling younger. I feel like I am younger. I've just been taking it for a short time. If I sent you a 2.5-minute video, would you watch it right away? Now, sometimes the dialogue is a little more intricate than that. There's a few more things said, but as quickly as I can, I want to convey my enthusiasm. I want to tell them there's a 2.5-minute video and get their agreement to watch it. Sometimes they'll say something like, well, couldn't you just tell me about it? And I say, actually, I probably could, but I wouldn't do as good a job as this 2.5-minute video. It's very succinct, directly to the point, and it's what got me excited. So if I sent you the video, would you watch it? Get their agreement, and then call right away. So again, as I say, less is more. And when you're telling your story, you want to focus on benefits that actually mean something to the average person you're talking to. I have had all kinds of benefits, numerous ones that I can't say because of the fact they'd be making medical claims. But I never mention those benefits because I don't want to attract a bunch of sick people. I want the average person listening to me to think, me too. So as you're crafting your story, you want to be careful to make sure that the average person that's listening to you is going to be thinking, me too, so that they can make that mental leap and go, yeah, me too. So the number one in crafting your story is kind of like what I call it kind of your ruin, like what was making your life not as great as it could be, what was happening before you encountered Neumi. That's number one. And I might say something like, I was so stressed about finances. It was having a terrible effect on my skin. I couldn't believe how much I was aging. Everything started to seem like it was bagging and sagging. So that would be maybe how I launched into my story, what was happening before. And then number two is what happened after you started taking the product. And again, you want them to think, me too. So at that point, I'd be talking about the fact that, I look so much younger now. It's not just that I look younger, it's how I'm feeling. So you want them to have that Me Too moment, like, hey, I wouldn't mind looking younger. Hey, I'm feeling really exhausted. Hey, I'm feeling that too. And then number 3 is your excitement for the future. And so for that, again, you want them to think Me Too. I might say something like, I got involved because I was excited about the product, but very quickly I realized how much it would help people. And so I quickly got involved with the business aspect of it. And I'm so excited about what started to happen, and also for some of the people on the team. So that's basically the story 1, what was kind of ruining your life, what happened after you started taking the product, and how you're excited for the future, all of them with Me Too added to it. And then you want to stop talking, give them the gift of your attention. You're watching for interest. When you're listening empathetically, hearts open, and you want to get to that place as quickly as possible, that the conversation is about them. And we learn by listening. We can then present to the needs and benefits that the person you're talking to actually wants, not what you think they might want. The friends who listen to us are the people that we move toward. Think about that. When you've got something in your life that's happened, you turn to the people that listen. And listening is a tremendous life skill, and it's ever more true than network marketing. Listening makes a person feel cared about, and as I've said before, if you listen, they in turn will listen. And when you hear what they are interested in, you can make a very effective presentation. So I find that the most natural presentations are your story. Even if I'm speaking to the biggest business builder, I'll always tell my story. Even if I'm calling on a med spa or something, I'll launch with my story. And again, you want to align it to common benefits. Make sure you're not talking like a scientist. You want to keep your conversations very conversational. Those people who do a 3-way with me, a 3-way call with me, normally realize that I ask a lot of questions and try to tailor my presentation to the interests of the person involved. But there's something else that I would like to talk to you about. And, I've read a lot about sales. I've studied big league sales techniques and all of those things. And I don't believe in manipulative sales techniques. I don't believe, spiritually we have the right to manipulate people. I prefer to be of service. But the reason, I told Michael that I wanted to talk to you about this specific thing today is that it makes a huge difference. If you understand this particular sales technique and why it works, then you really understand what's happening in the world of the person you're talking to. And I do not suggest you use it exactly as it's stated, because there's so many people that have studied sales and that, and they'd be really irritated and feel manipulated if you used it exactly like it's presented in sales books, which is feel, felt, found. I know how you feel. I felt that way myself, but this is what I found. Used and understood properly, if you understand why it works is it creates empathy. When somebody's telling you the pain that they've experienced, the upset that they've had, if they don't feel fully acknowledged, there's that saying, people sold against their will are of the same opinion still. They'll continue to try to tell you what is, their feelings. Or if they don't continue to tell you, they'll keep them bottled up inside and they won't really be listening. So I understand that telling someone you know how they feel creates empathy right away. The person feels heard. And when you say, I felt that way myself, they realize that you're somebody that has experienced much the same thing, so you really get how they feel. And then when you say something like, but this is what I found, they realize then that, hey, maybe this could possibly be different. So I have feel, felt, found in my mind because I understand that great sales techniques are based on the natural way people respond to things. So I would never use feel, felt, found. But I can tell you, when Michael presented to me, he let me talk. He quickly let me know that he knew how I felt. He might not have used those exact words, but I got very quickly that he understood how I felt. And then I was willing to listen to why he found Neumi to be different. So let's say you were in a company called XYZ Company and it had been a terrible experience. The company had gone south for one reason or another. And you're calling somebody that maybe was in your group at that time, and they say, oh, I never want to be in networking again. That was so awful. I lost so much money. Everybody hates me, blah, blah. And you understand exactly what they're saying because you have been in that position, right? So you can say, look I totally get what you're saying. I totally get it. Believe me, I had network marketing PTSD. I was never going to get involved with anything again. But when I saw this company and I actually started to pull the string, I couldn't believe the differences that I was looking at. And I came away realizing that this was a once in a lifetime opportunity. So, you can say, I understand what you're saying. I totally get it. I had very similar considerations. I felt really disillusioned. But, Neumi has restored my belief in the industry. It's really healed my heart. And I'm the most excited I've ever been. So those are the types of things that I do. But just write down feel, felt, found, and play with it a little bit in your mind because it overcomes resistance. It lets people feel heard, but never use it exactly like that, feel, felt, found. Approach people with genuine caring, but realize when they come to you with their objection or the thing that they're concerned about, you have to let them know that you really got what they're saying. And that overcomes resistance. And it is incredible. So it creates a connection. It very quickly creates a connection between people. And as I said, in my initial experience with Michael, he created a connection very, very quickly. And one of the things that I do effectively is I normally create a great connection with the person that I'm talking to very quickly. And it's interesting because in this business, you're building lifetime relationships, and it always starts with understanding how the person feels that you're talking to, and that's true in follow-up. I wanted to talk about building connections in follow-up, building connections in your group as a whole. Creating community is the most important thing in network marketing. Creating those connections, those real connections between people. My best friends are all in network marketing. I have tremendous connections with numerous people on my team. And they're created because I care. But let's expand that idea of caring a little bit. And there's something that I call my power of three, which is the three C's, which is contact, and then connect equals community. And what I mean by that is care enough to follow up, contact your people, Make sure that they're having a good experience. Make sure that they understand this is not drugs. They're not going to have a stimulant type experience, that they need to be on the product 3 to 6 months to see the really huge results and really get that commitment from them. Use follow-up videos. I think Dr. Crozier's video is excellent for follow-up. I always follow up with the before and after pictures, that type of thing. But care enough to make sure that they're having their experience, care enough to follow up and understand when they start having their personal experience with a product, underline that, let them know that that's the reason people are so excited about this business, is because they're really helping others. And we really work as a team in Neumi, so that you'd be happy to help them talk to anybody they'd like about the product. But it starts with caring, contact, and making that connection to the follow-up materials. But also, as you build, making that connection to all of our tools, making sure they understand what the tools are, that we have wonderful calls all week long. The company works so hard to do these calls for us. I know that, like, Michael works really hard putting all of these things in place for us. We have a great Facebook group. We have a wonderful leader. Let them know a lot about Steve Scott. Now is the time where you can talk a little bit more technical about the product. You can show them some of the videos. You don't have to be a scientist. You're always better. Less is better, and put them in touch with a tool. You want to make sure that, they're looking at these calls, that they're going through their app and watching some of these videos. And as they're experiencing all of this, let them know that you understand, what's happening with them and build those connections. Connections are what keep people engaged. They tap into the power of network marketing, which the main power of network marketing is leverage. And when you build those strong connections, you create like this weave. I remember one of the ladies early on, contacting me, Jennifer Meadows, and she said, I love the product. I love the product. It's helped me so much. But I love this Neumi family. I'm so grateful. It made such a huge difference in her life, because she was older and feeling isolated. And there's so many people that feel isolated and love to be part of something. And I can tell you, creating those kinds of connections creates stability in your group. Amway is a company that a lot of us probably wouldn't join. They have products that a lot of us might think, oh, maybe I wouldn't sell. And their compensation plan isn't anywhere near as exciting as ours is. But one of the things they're fabulous about is creating community, creating a sense of group, creating a sense of family. And I've always admired them for that. So create those connections to you as a leader, to the product, so that everyone has their own story, to all the tools, Steve Scott, Dr. Crozier, before and after pictures. Let people know if it's happening on the outside, it's happening on the inside. Just really create the connections to the Facebook pages, all of those things, so that they really feel part of a community. You're leveraging your time as you do it. And as you do this, what will happen is what happens for me. Your group will start taking off in all directions because they feel supported. They're experiencing that network of support. Realize making these connections, the tools save you time. So that's about all I have to say on that. I know I was only going to talk for a couple of minutes, but there's so much involved in creating the connections and creating that, the initial connection, but also the connections within the team. It's all about connection.
Beautiful. That was absolutely fantastic. And do me a favor, type in if you got something out of that. Because I've got to say, guys, it's funny. I was watching Larry, and I can see you right now, Larry. As soon as Karen said, I didn't want to be here and I wasn't going to join, And I saw Larry burst into laughter because he and I were on that call. And I knew from the get-go, from the very first second, Karen was not going to sign me up. In fact, she was like, don't waste my time. And so I share this with you. In fact, I'll ask this question because Larry can be the best person to answer this question from his heart. Do you think that Karen would have joined Neumi if we didn't have the three-way Zoom? Type in the chat, Larry. I'm really curious. And this is important because we're promoting a process called Neumi 123. Some people are out there being the Lone Ranger. What do I mean? They're going, hey, watch this video now. Let's follow up on our own and sign you up. And they don't understand that they've just taken the rocket fuel out of the tank. There you go. Larry typed in no. Now, I knew if, and I'm not downplaying Larry. Larry's fantastic. He's like been in network marketing for 1 billion years. Maybe a little less than that, Larry, but and Larry's got a lot of wisdom. However, even if I had a big fish on the line, I'm going to go, Alex, hold this and help me bring it in, right? And so I do that. If you're my prospect, guess what? I actually get you on a call with corporate or Alex. And so what I did when Karen came to that stage, I was very consultative. Now, I want you to know this. There's in the back office, there's a training called third-party validation. Third-party validation. If you haven't watched it, you haven't started your training from step 1 yet. Because third-party validation in there, I talk about a guy called Tim Sales. In the industry, a guy called Tim Sales wrote an amazing course called The Professional Inviter. And in there, he came up with a concept called Greet, Qualify, Invitation. Greet, Qualify, Invitation. And so greet is building rapport. Don't open your mouth about Neumi, about how good we are and our great products and all that crap, excuse the French, before you've built rapport. And secondly, and this is the important one, being consultative, ask questions. That's the qualify. Before you shoot off about how great we are and our products and what they do, ask questions to get to understand the individual. Do they have any experience in network marketing? Have they used glutathione before? You know, if they did have an experience, tell me more about that. How was it? Because you might find, I've seen people poo-poo Amway, for example, when the person happens to have a friend who's a crown in Amway and they love it. Okay, so don't assume just because you got in your head an assumption. So be consultative. Now, this is important. If you are bringing someone on a call, and Larry did this beautifully, right? When you're bringing someone on a call, you introduce both parties, you edify both parties, and then you press mute. Now, if you are the talking type who's excited all the time, so you're an otter, you need a super glue button called mute. Because what will happen if Larry was to have intervened and asked a question or take it onto a different topic, I was doing my best to be as laid back as possible and as consultative as possible, asking Karen questions, because I could feel her pain about being screwed over and losing things in network marketing in the past. And I've gone, oh, me too. Now I could have gone, yeah, me too, straight away. But I kept consultative. I built some rapport. I asked some questions. I took all my notes. Everyone who's on a 3-way call with me or a test, I've always got this in my hand and I'm writing notes. I'm looking for common ground between me and the prospect. It doesn't matter if they like you. It matters if you've edified your upline and they like your upline, because they're building rapport. Greeting, step 1. Step 2, qualify. They're asking questions, and they might ask 4 or 5 questions to get to the core point that's the hot button or the no button for your prospect. So if you intervene, because you're like, oh, I'm excited, I heard something like that too, Michael, you're like, shut up. I have been known to hit the eject button on people by accident. Was it accidental? I don't know. I've had someone who spoke so many times, I told her so many times, I eventually in the middle of the Zoom went, boom, and they left the room while we kept talking to the prospect. Then they logged back in. I'm like, oh, what happened there? Right. The truth was I was going, you're not hearing me. Shut up so I can please bond with your person. And if you're not going to do that, I'm going to just have to hit an eject button so that you don't get in your own way and then debrief later and train that person. You don't realize you're actually getting in your way. You're not adding value. You're detracting from the value if your upline's building rapport. So if I've got a great idea and Alex is talking to my prospect, if I'm on Zoom, I might, put the hand up button, but I'll wait patiently and I will not open my mouth. I will not unmute until he has finished his conversation, because I don't know in his brain where he's going with this conversation. He may be trying to get to this point and I'm opening my mouth thinking I'm adding value and I'm just going to screw it up for him. So Larry did a beautiful topic that way. And then for me, I knew I didn't have the fish in the boat. So I'm like, you need to meet Steve Scott because he's integrity. So I'm boom, straight into a corporate call, didn't we, Larry? Right? And so it was the second call, which crack of the marble block broke it? Was it the first, the second, or the third, or the 10th? I don't know. It was a combination of all of those. So I can't say this enough. Third-party validation is the key. Now, in training you this, why are we training you on this stuff, right? I want to give you this analogy. You see some people who they jump from company to company, right? They're called jumpers in this industry, and they don't have a lot of credibility because they're always going, oh, another gig this week, oh, another gig this week. Hey, get in now. It's the, there's a pre-launch, or another product. It's not going to compete with the one you're doing. It's all good, and they detract you, right, from success, right? And so put your blinkers on and don't let those shiny objects waste your time, because if you want to be Karen, you're not going to ever be able to get there unless you're focusing on one company at a time. Just doesn't happen. I've not met one person in the industry who's ever done it. Now, with that in mind, we're trying to empower you. And I thought of an analogy today, which really hits home. I heard it years ago from some of the mentor. Picture yourself with a boulder, and you've got a hill, and you're pushing the boulder up the hill. This is what you're doing when you're recruiting, right? And then you stop doing what you're doing. What's going to happen? If you take your hand off the rock goes back down. You've got to start again. And then go back. So following up and doing the things she's talking about is about holding that rock there. Why are we trying to empower people through three-way calls? Now, when I did the three-way call with Larry and Karen, I was there to be consultative and listen intently and then pitch the parts of Neumi to Karen that I knew would resonate with her. But I was also, at the very same time, I was the university on wheels for Larry, because I debrief with everyone. I say, now, did you hear what I said when I said this? Did you hear when I said that? When they said this, did you hear how I did this? This is why I did it. Because I'm trying to hand the baton to Larry and go, you could do this. And Larry's gone off and done calls with his people. And everybody eventually from 1-star to 2-star, 3-star will start doing that. Because guess what happens then? Someone's holding the rock. You go away, the rock's being held. And it's still being pushed up by other people. Eventually, this is where the people selling their way to a rank don't get it. They never get it. And they go, yo, jump to another company because they've sold their way, and then they slide back down. If you take on board the personal development of listening to the training we're talking about, right? And I can tell you, I didn't invent it. I learned it by studying Tim Sales. Was that worthwhile? I think I spent, I could be wrong, Phoebe, I think it was maybe $90 way back then for this course that I did. Was it worthwhile me learning to be consultative? Because, by the way, I didn't know how to do that. That was not me. And I wasn't good on three-way calls before that, right? So I wasn't born with this. How worthwhile was it for me to study and become a better version of me on three-way calls? All of Karen's business in Neumi would not exist. Based on what Larry said, if they didn't have the three-way call, that wouldn't happen. Half of Neumi worldwide would not exist, guys. Do you get how important it is as an upline to invest in yourself and learn how to be consultative and learn how to do the three-way calls in a fashion that isn't salesy? Exactly what Karen's talking about, which is connection and building relationships, okay? I debrief with every call, and I say, I can tell you from hello, that person's joining, or we're going to struggle with this one, because you tend to get your spidey sense as you get a bigger business, and you kind of intuitively know what's going on all the time, right? So thank you, Phoebe. Very powerful topic, not because of me, because of Karen, right? And so eventually, if you really are looking for that passive residual income that goes on, guess what? You teach more and more people to do the three-way calls. People are pushing the rock up the hill without you. Eventually, it gets to the top of the hill. Momentum kicks in, it runs down the other side of the hill, and you've got hands off the wheel, and your rank is going like this. That's why I spend so much time making sure we empower you guys with these trainings, guys. That's why selling my way to a rank isn't the solution. Sponsoring more people is not the solution. Helping you to understand, if we empower you to be great and consultative on a three-way Zoom as a leader, will set the world on fire. So I want to thank Karen for a brilliant topic today. And good morning, good afternoon.